My dad, 52 male, worked a lot of hours, so it was always just me and my mom. All she did was nag me constantly. It was always about that stuff, and she never listened to what I wanted. For example, she'd pack these elaborate lunch boxes, and when she found out I was giving it to my friend, she got really upset even though I told her before that I wanted normal food. To make it worse, she guilt-tripped me by packing my friend his own lunch and dropped it off every morning when she drove me to school. It was a passive-aggressive stunt. Long story short, my dad and his coworker clicked. Things happened and my mom freaked out and they divorced. I was 16 and wanted to live with my dad and my stepmom, who was way more chill. She let me live and didn't nag me about homework and stuff. My mom tried to get custody, but the judge let me decide. My dad and stepmom didn't make me contact her. A few years later, I changed my number for insurance stuff, moved out of state, and we lost contact. She was literally already married and had a kid, but she didn't tell me. It wasn't 11 years of no contact like people said, just a couple of years out of touch. So she basically lied to me. Recently, my grandparents had their anniversary, and they somehow invited my mom even though she's the ex. I didn't think she would show up. She came in with her husband and a 5-year-old kid, my half-brother. My mom had married someone without telling me and had a kid. I was so upset that she hadn't even told me, so I yelled at her. I was really hurt that she replaced me with a perfect, well-behaved kid. She was going to pretend I didn't exist so her perfect life could continue. She threw a tantrum and left with her new family. My grandparents asked me to leave, but my dad and my stepmom had my back. They said it was ridiculous that she hadn't told any of us that she got married and had a kid. My grandparents said that they knew and were invited to her wedding. Now my dad is mad at his parents, I'm mad at my mom, and my life is a mess. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit, I don't care that she remarried and had a kid. I care that she hid it from everyone. Jesus, she was a helicopter parent and didn't let me breathe my entire life. And guilt-tripping how much she loved me so much, when she didn't even care to look at me once during the anniversary party. It's not like she used to tell me I was the light of her life or stuff. It's not like I'm her son. Now I'm nothing to her because she has a new family and a new son that she can mother hand the heck out of and then abandon when he's a real person instead of her perfect dress-up doll. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. What you describe sounds like normal parenting. Eat your breakfast, put on clean clothes, do your homework, go to bed, you have to get up in the morning. I wouldn't pack pretzels and mozzarella sticks for a kid's lunch either. And it sounds like your friend needed and enjoyed his lunch, and yet you're making it all about you. You may have left out the details that explain why it's so awful that your mom nagged you about these things. With the details that you're giving though, it's hard to see what's wrong. Your dad cheated on your mom. You picked your dad's side because your stepmother didn't do any parenting. You and your father chose to drop out of the relationship. Your grandparents didn't. Then when your mom is invited to dinner, you scream about how she didn't tell you she was pregnant. You're the one who chose not to reach out to her for 5 years. You replaced her in your life. And now you're complaining that she's moved on. A 40-year-old woman isn't too old to think about kids. She just kept saying the same things over and over like a broken record player. We couldn't have one conversation where she didn't start it off with her telling me to get some rest, or eat food, or stop playing video games. My friend wasn't poor or anything. He just didn't like the school lunch. I knew she did it just to embarrass me. She was passive-aggressive about it, saying stuff like how she was glad someone appreciated her food, implying that I didn't. It wasn't like I wasn't eating healthily at home. What was wrong with pigging out for lunch if every other meal was healthy garbage? I was 16. It's not like I was a child who needed constant supervision and nagging. My stepmom understood that I'm 27. Nobody tells me to wash my socks or eat healthy meals. I do that stuff because I decided to. It wasn't really cheating. From what my dad told me, they were barely even in a relationship at that point. 40 is way too old for a woman to think about kids. The cutoff is 35. You're the a-hole. You don't get to go no contact and then be angry when they don't contact you. I didn't go no contact or whatever with her. I just wasn't interested in the same conversation over and over. How are you? What are you doing? How was school? How are your friends? Is literally the same stuff over and over. I was tired of hearing that, so I just stopped picking up her calls. I expect her to at least try to reach out about big stuff like getting married. You're the a-hole. I'm confused here. You picked the parent you wanted to live with and did not hold up contact on your end. You moved, changed numbers, never bothered to give her the new one. Your passivity had a huge part in your estrangement. And then you suddenly get confused that you missed a major milestone? I get it. That reality of that half-sibling hurt. And maybe there was some part of you that expected her to always just wait for you, even if you had no intention of returning. And the realization that she moved on with her life, which by the way does not mean she stopped loving you, she just accepted your choices, even you made them passively, was like a bucket of cold water. But you were out of line, not her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the court that I would rather live with my dad after my mom showed up with her stepkids to the dinner I planned? My 15 female parents divorced when I was 3. My mom remarried 2 years after that and my dad 5 years after. They had 50-50 custody, until last month when I decided to fully live with my dad. Both of them have stepkids with whom I'm not really close to. They're more like friends than my brothers, and at first both of them prioritized them over me. Since my dad remarried when I was 8, I was able to tell him that I felt put aside and left behind because he had a new family that he seemed to prefer. My dad is a very sensitive person, and this rubbed in the wrong way. Things were hard at first, but with a lot of family work, we were able to get through that, and things are a lot better now. Even when my dad messed things up, he really tried to fix them. He wasn't perfect, of course, and neither was I, but this brought us closer. Things with my mom were a lot different. I can't remember the first years, of course, but I've always felt that my mom preferred her husband over me, and this caused her to love his children more. She forced me to call him father, to give up my room to his twins, and everything my dad or my grandparents got me I had to share with them, whether I liked it or not. When I was 10, I told her the same thing I said to my dad, but she reacted way worse than that. She accused me of wanting to break up her marriage, of being a jealous, spoiled brat, and that I was an ungrateful little witch because she had done everything to keep me safe. But I can't remember the last time I had my mother alone, or at least a proper conversation when she didn't focus on my step-siblings. I let time pass, and in September of this year I was accepted into a private high school with a scholarship in Mexico. I was so excited because if you get accepted into the high school, then getting to the uni is way easier, and this is one of Mexico's best universities. My grandparents helped me to plan a dinner for my parents to give them the news, so I asked both of them to go to my grand's house alone next Sunday because I had something important to tell them. I made sure to tell them that it was only the two of them, no spouses, no stepchildren, and both of them said okay. But my mom attended with my 5 step-siblings and went mad when she realized that there wasn't enough food for all of them. She and my dad fought and she left before I could give her the news, and I only told my dad. Then I asked him to take me full-time because I couldn't pretend that my mom wasn't hurting me. She thought that I was going to come to her house despite that, and when I didn't show up this Monday, she accused me of abandoning her. Told me that I was an awful daughter, and her side of the family is harassing me to go back because a mother is the only thing I'll ever have, and that my dad has never done anything good for me. Not today, home. Your invitation specifically stated no extra guests, but your mother ignored this despite confirming she understood. Your mother failed you. She should have given you space to have a relationship with her, just between the two of you and not sharing it with her new family. She's never done this. She's expected you to roll over for her family while making no concessions for you. She had to make your special dinner and news about her family. Congratulations on your achievement. May your future be bright and with people who genuinely care for you. Tell the flying monkeys to shove it. You are old enough to make your own decisions, and it was your mother's choice to ignore your request to come alone. If they're posting on social media, block them. Thank you for your advice. I blocked some of them, but I can't bring myself to block my mom despite all of this. Maybe don't block her, but set it so that there's no notification. That way you can look at her messages at your leisure. Not today, home. She obviously favors your step-siblings over you, and your dad truly cares for you when he can. She might have a deeper motive for having shared custody of you instead of I am your mother. I'm guessing she doesn't want to pay child support. Now that I live full-time with my dad, she has to pay him. Thought so. I'm guessing when you're at her place, she does bare minimum for you, just enough to have kept shared custody. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole I insulted my wife in front of my family? I and my wife have been married for 8 years. She told me she wants to be a stay-at-home wife when we got married because she didn't like her job that much. I was okay with it since I earn enough for both of us. My mom had to drop out of school because she lost her parents at a young age, and she had to do manual labor to send her siblings to school. The Indian government then did not have any concessions for orphan kids. She had a choice to either go to school herself or send her siblings to school. Because of this, she dropped out in 8th grade, 14-year-old. Both her siblings got employed in really good companies, and they took care of her since then, until she got married. My dad passed away just 2 years after their marriage, and she had to take care of me on her own. Her siblings did help, but she worked 2 jobs along with that to support us both. I was an only child, and my father died while she was pregnant with me. Today we had a family get-together. My mom, her siblings, each of their kids and daughter/son-in-laws, grandkids, etc. After having dinner, my wife said we needed to leave early because our kids have to go to basketball, swimming, and also private tutors tomorrow. My kids were begging her to let them stay for a little longer. My mom asked my wife if they can miss 1 day of practice to spend time with family, since the kids also must have missed their cousins after not having met them for nearly a year. My wife retaliated, saying an illiterate woman wouldn't know the importance of education and extracurricular activities. My mom was clearly hurt and apologized for overstepping. I told my wife that literacy clearly hasn't taught her, my wife, basic manners. My wife got mad at me for insulting her in front of everyone and went back home with the kids. She's not even picking up my calls or replying to my texts. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Your wife sounds awful and should show your mom all the respect in the world. As many people say on this site, this is a massive red flag. Your wife clearly looks down on others and doesn't have respect for you or your family. Stealing the top comments to say to OP, don't divorce her. Whatever you do, don't. She will get primary custody because she spends more time with the kids, and you would have to pay child support and alimony. Try to get her to have a high-paying job and spend a lot of time with her kids for primary custody. This may be true in the US, but OP is in India. It's even more true for India. Stay-at-home mom almost always gets the alimony and kids. Alimony because a large majority of Indian women are housewives and dowry is a norm, often against their wishes, and there are laws in place to protect them. Of course, this also means that there are women who are unfairly advantaged too. Even if his wife was working, he'd still have to pay alimony. And regarding children, in Indian culture, it's assumed that mothers matter more to the kids than fathers. It not only means that culturally only women are expected to drop their careers for kids and become a stay-at-home mom, but it also means that fathers hardly ever get the custody of their kids in divorces. Divorces are also very uncommon. I personally don't know any divorced couple or have seen one in real life. I'm Indian. My wife retaliated, saying an illiterate woman wouldn't know the importance of education and extracurricular activities. The question isn't whether she's an a-hole for this comment, it's how big an a-hole she is. If she's aware of why your mom had to drop out of school, since she knew enough to make comments on it, then she's much worse than if she doesn't know. Either way, her comment was cruel and uncalled for. I told my wife that literacy clearly hasn't taught her, my wife, basic manners. This is an excellent point and a fair response. I don't agree with publicly shaming, in general, your spouse, but she had the audacity to insult your mother's education when your mother stepped up to be a parent to her siblings. Calling that behavior out in front of your mother was important because your wife knows you won't sit idly by while she badmouths your mom. Not today, home. Family get-together, my mom, her siblings, each of their kids and daughter/son-in-laws, grandkids, etc. My wife got mad at me for insulting her in front of everyone. Thing is, your wife made this comment in front of everyone. She thought it's okay to humiliate your mom in front of the people she dropped out of school to support, their spouses and kids, entirely unprovoked. Since your wife is giving you the silent treatment, you may want to give her time to cool off, then ask her why she thought that was an appropriate thing to say. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not buying pads for my sister's best friend during her first period? I-18 male was supposed to pick up my sister and her best friend, both 12 female, from school and take them to ballet class. I arrived very late and they were waiting for me alone on the sideway. I saw that something was up. While they were waiting after the school has already been closed, my sister's friend started to have her first period. I don't know almost anything about periods, but the point is that there was a red stain on her skirt. My sister did not have her first period yet. The friend was crying and my sister asked me if we could go to a pharmacy to get pads for her. I didn't want to do that. As an adult man, I didn't think it was appropriate for me to get involved on such an intimate thing for a girl I'm not even related to. I asked her if she could call her mom, but she said that her mom was working and couldn't respond. I decided that the best course of action was to take them to their ballet class, where there would be a lot of women that could help. I told her to sit over her backpack so she wouldn't ruin my car. I left them at the class and that was it. When I told my girlfriend, 18 female, about this, she was really angry. She said that what I did was totally wrong and that I'm an idiot. I get that she knows more about periods than me, being a woman, but I think that my reaction was logical. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. There were plenty of options here other than ditching her at a public location. Call your girlfriend to come help. Give your sister money and let her buy them. You buy them. Walk into the drugstore and find a female clerk who would help her. Take her to the dance school. Let her sit in the car. And you go in and find a mom who could come out to the car and help. Not make her walk in with soul clothes looking for help and just leave her there. Take her home so she can clean up there and potentially find her mom. This, 100%. Like there was so many other ways this could have gone better. It really wouldn't have taken much time out of his day either. 10 minutes max to run in a store. Ask for help for choosing the right pads for a 12-year-old. A few minutes to run into the ballet place for her and ask an adult woman to help. Like it really wouldn't dapper his day at all. He's just being insecure and worried about his masculinity card. You're the a-hole. Get over yourself. Buying pads for a 12-year-old isn't intimate. It's being kind. Would you have bought her band-aids if she scraped her knee? When you have a daughter, will you refuse to buy her any intimate items like pads or tampons? It's the fact he heard a 12-year-old girl needing hygienic products, and his head jumped into intimacy. Red flag. You're the a-hole. Periods are not intimate things. It was an embarrassing situation for a girl, and you made it so much worse. If you're really an adult, you need to act like one and deal with things like an adult. He was responsible for these kids, and he didn't look after them when they needed an adult.